You are joining a design meeting for a big feature. You point out that something is a bad idea, and they ask you why. The whole room is now quiet and looking at you, and you just go, I just know it's not going to work. But you don't know how you know. You may have been in similar scenarios where you don't know what your arguments are or you're not sure how to make the right decision. So we all want to grow as software developers, gain more experience, and know exactly what we should do on our next step. But we don't have time. We feel like it's way too much reading a 200 pages book about architecture and taking a 50-hour long course. So the tips that I want to show you today are simple exercises that you can do during your daily work as software developers and just gain more points of view and improve your software architecture skills. My name is Elashir. I'm a software engineer. I worked for a medium-sized company for several years, and now I work in a stealth mode startup, speaking about no spare time to waste. I also have a technical blog on Medium called Sheer Engineer. I recently posted an article summing up several of my tips about architecture skills, and it went kind of viral with over 50,000 views. So this talk sums up the article itself, but also many feedbacks and tips that I received as feedbacks. Let's dive in. What is software architecture? Well, according to Wikipedia, which I like, it's about making fundamental structural choices that are costly to change once implemented. For example, the background for this presentation, I chose it because it looked kind of high-techy and sophisticated, and it went awesome, but as I started putting more and more text, I realized that it didn't scale so well. And at this point, it was already pretty much too much work to change it. So what skills do we want to improve our software architecture skills? We want to improve our problem-solving creativity, prioritization, detailed and thorough thinking, and to understand the blueprint of the system itself. Also, you will need various of technical skills that are related to your field of work. So my first tip would be to find 2 or more solutions to each problem that you need. We do this to improve our problem solving and our creativity. Now, no matter if you work on debugging or refactoring or writing new code, each coding task that you have in your daily work is mostly about a problem and a solution to it. So I suggest just before diving into Stack Overflow on Google to find a problem, take a moment and do this thought experiment. Also do it even if you already know the right solution or you think you know the right solution to your problem. Just try to expand your horizons a little bit more. Now, I want to take an example and run with it through the next several tips. Spoiler, the example itself is not very important and there won't be a correct solution to this problem. So the mission goes like this. We have a microservices system, of course, and we want to extend a service. We want to add a new API to it, which is similar to an API that we already have, but this one will take much longer time. So the answer can't be immediate and online, but we'll have to do some kind of an offline answer. So let's try to find a solution. The solutions that come to mind pretty fast is the right way to do it, which is to add an API and then to extend the infrastructure, maybe by adding a third party that already handles the offline. Maybe your framework already has this kind of use, but you haven't used it, and just support all kinds of offline requests. We can also do the quick and dirty kind of work and to add a new API and solve this problem specifically for it. For example, maybe open a thread, wait for it, and then do some kind of solution without solving the problem for the entire system. As I spoke to a similar problem with someone on my team, they suggested this kind of hack of redirecting an existing API by adding another parameter and basically adding an if inside our code. Now, this is very, very dirty, but it's also very, very quick. And there was kind of advantage because we didn't have to redeploy our entire system, but we could find a solution for a specific client in this way. So just by talking to people, I got to see more points of view, more solutions in this case, which I didn't think about. And actually, I also didn't like it, but it's okay. You don't have to like all the solutions or think that they're good. So the next thing we do is about criterions and trade-offs. We want to improve our prioritization and our detailed thinking. In our example, and different criteria are, for example, the development efforts, the time that it will take to write the code, and the QA effort, which is what we change in the system and what it may affect. There is a difference between adding an entire new infrastructure to the system to support all kinds of requests or just solving it for a single API. After adding the solution of the hack, also other criterions came to mind. For example, the deploy effort of deploying the version is now different because I have a solution where the deploy will take much less time. And also the technical depth came to mind because the amount of work that we need to do later on after finishing this task is also changing. Now, this is a very small example, but the idea is to learn about other considerations in your system and what things can cause you to do or not do, or to choose or not choose a single solution. So the next step is to take all the solutions and all the different criteria that we have and just fill in the numbers or the grades that we want to give them. Now I did it already because I wanted to spare some time, and it's important to keep being objective, even if you have solutions that you don't like or you think they are bad, like this hack is really easy for me at least to hate. They're still supposed to get a good rank in some aspects. For example, it's very easy to develop. It's a very fast code to write, and we will deploy it very fast. So it should get a good rank in these sections. Another thing that is interesting is when you fill the table, you want to phrase yourself the reasons and to explain why you're giving these ranks. For example, if I'm going to look over the word of the technical depth that we are creating. So for the hack, we have a very high technical depth because we are using the same API for two different scenarios. So later on, if we want to break this API into different APIs, we may have backward compatibility issues and we need to use versioning to solve it and these kind of aspects on top of doing the infrastructure changes that we need. So we end up with a lot of work to do and it will be costly to us. If we are looking over the quick and dirty when we add another API, but we don't solve the entire infrastructure, so the technical depth here is kind of medium because we still need to change the infrastructure, but it may be a background work where we don't change the behavior of the system. On the other hand, we now have a ticket in Jira that doesn't add any new value to the client. It just changes the infrastructure. So it may be hard to justify why we want to do a task that won't bring new value to the customer. The right way to do things when we add both the API and the external infrastructure just gets a very good grade on technical debt, because assuming we do it properly, we just keep the system in a very good condition. So notice that by phrasing and explaining to myself exactly why I'm giving good or bad grades, I'm doing basically all the different trade-offs and all the things that I wanted to say in the discussion where we started the design meeting. So I already know what my arguments are. Okay, I just wanted to show that you don't have to do like numbers or grades, you can also do colors, and it will just emphasize and visualize the good and the bad aspects of this solution. So to sum up this part, we talked about finding several solutions, list the criteria, and consider the different trade-offs and different arguments for and against the solutions based on the criteria. Now, the table was just one example. There are different ways to do it, and it's not as important the way that you do it, but just take the time and the effort to process your solutions, to analyze them or visualize them, and think for yourself, what are the arguments, what are the pros and cons of each one of them. This will expand your problem solving in a very thorough manner. So my next tip would be to have a technical discussion with a non-technical person. We do this to improve communication, but also to get a better technical understanding of the problems that we are solving or what it is that we are doing. Different people have different abilities to understand our work. And it's kind of the explain like I'm five subreddit or YouTube, if you know it. If you have to talk with someone that has less technical understanding, it forces you to keep out of technical terms and zoom out, take a wider point of view, and to explain concepts in simple words. You may find out that explaining your work in very simple manner is something that is quite hard to do, and it forces you and tests you and your own understanding of the issue. The yin to the non-tech yang is talk with technical people. We do this to learn a little or more about every different part of our system. In order to make good decisions that have wide impact, we want to understand backend and frontend and some of the CI/CD processes and deploy that we are doing. We also want to have at this point some kind of idea about the company vision or strategy, because if we will have to make decisions that will put constraints on the system, because that's kind of the nature of our choices, we will impact our system. We will make constraints and block and make certain things harder to do later on. And we want to try and have the bigger picture point of view and know what directions our company may take, and then to make decisions that will allow the system to grow in these directions. So going from this high level concept of understanding every bit of your system to more practical things that you can do about it. Now, I'm not suggesting that you will quit your job, drop your backend profession, and go on to do frontend or DevOps for 2 years just to gain a better understanding. There are a lot of things that you can do inside your company. One thing for start is to help other teams or to join a cross-team project. Sometimes these things look kind of intimidating and putting you outside of your comfort zone, but this allow you to gain different knowledge than you have right now and learn more things and other considerations that other people have about this system just by working with them. You can watch other people's demos if they're doing, and try maybe even ask to join their architectural discussions or discussions when they try to make decisions about the system. And now that it's more common to work via Zoom and online, so it may be easier to ask to join these kind of meetings and just watch and listen and gain the knowledge, because you're not even physically interacting, like there is not enough room in this, there is not enough space in this room for you. So use this to your advantage and try to gain this knowledge and experience. You can join the onboarding of a new employee. Now that's kind of a radical and something that is not common to do. But if, for example, a new front end comes to your team, you can jump in and you won't have to relearn what your Git or your system is about, but you can just pop into these parts where they will explain to the new employee the different aspects of your front end and just learn it very easily. The last bit and the most wide one is just to engage and ask people questions. For example, just grab people during lunchtime and ask them what are the hardest aspect of the work, or what is the most interesting aspect of the system that they are working on. And you may find out people love to talk about their work and what they do, and you will gain a lot of useful insights with this information. Talked in the first part about things that you can do on your own, how to expand the way you think about problems and different kinds of solutions. And in the second part, about talking with people who are both non-technical and technical to test your own understanding and to gain the knowledge or experience of other people that you work with. So the skills that we covered are problem solving, creativity, prioritization, detailed thinking, and understanding the system. And the technical skill part, sorry, you will have to do it on your own. Thank you very much. You are welcome to join in and talk with me on my LinkedIn, or follow my Medium blog.